Morning. Welcome to the Planning Board regular meeting on Thursday, January 8th, 2026. Please silence your cell phones. Let me make sure I did mine. Okay. Roll call, Mr. Hart, please.
Member Bobby,
Present.
Member Brown, Member Powell, Member Axelrod, Vice Chair Person Rosen, Chairperson Mendelson,
Present.
Town Attorney Rubin,
Present.
and Member David is absent. Thank you.
Okay. Please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, swearing in of the public. For those giving testimony, please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn by and provide testimony for the application you are affiliated with. Mr. Hart, please swear in those giving testimony.
By the authority vested in me as a notary of the state of Florida, do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes of December 11th? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of December 11th? All in favor? Aye. Unfinished business, none. Okay. New business. Development order application number P25-35, Andrew Megabo. Application by Eileen Gonzalez, Breezy Permits LLC, requesting a special exception to install a 30,000-pound capacity boat lift in slip number 10 for the property located at 2727 South Ocean Boulevard, number 902. Do any board members have any ex parte communications to disclose? Okay, hearing none. At this time, I now open the public hearing. Town Planner Allen, please present the application. Morning.
So here you have the subject property. I'll see to the left there, you can see the Lona. And here you have the view of the marina looking eastward. And this specific request is for slip number 10. So I've gone ahead and put a little note there for slip number 10. As indicated, this is a request for a special exception to install an 8-post 30-pound capacity boat lift in slip number 10 at the Villa Mac Marina. The request is on behalf of the property owner that's residing at 2727 South Ocean Boulevard, unit number 902. According to the applicant, there was a previous 4-post 24,000-pound capacity lift located on the split. It was removed. Town code violation for work without a permit was issued by the code compliance officer.
And I've gone ahead and provided you that case number on the top of page 9. We'll go ahead and take a look at the survey and the plans. These are the 11 by 17 plans that are in your packet. Here you have the survey. And actually for the next item, which is in the same property, you'll have this same survey. You could see slip number 9 and 10 are called out here. And here you have the section view, the plan view, and a site plan as well. The applicant has obtained both the Florida Department of Environmental Protection as well as Army Corps authorizations. I've gone ahead and provided you those file numbers on the top of page 9. Now, there was a small discrepancy between the plans submitted to FDP and Army Corps regarding the width of the lift. On those agency plans, you'll see that the width of the lift is 18 feet, but on the plans that were submitted to the town, the width is 14 feet. The applicant has provided correspondence, email correspondence from both agencies indicating that that change in width will not affect the validity of their authorizations. According to the boat lift section, which is on sheet 1 of that 11 by 17 sheet in your packets, the top of the lift measures approximately 6 feet from the existing top of seawall, the existing dock. The applicant hasn't dimensioned the superstructure of the boat on the section view. I've said this several times. It's not a requirement of the code, but that said, staff does ask the applicant to put a note, and the applicant has, of course, indicated the note, that the boat lift will be in compliance with the definition of boat lift as provided in section 30-131 in your code. And I provided that definition for you on the middle section of page 9. The Villa Magna Marina does accommodate perpendicular docking, as you can see from the previous aerial. I've gone ahead and provided you the perpendicular docking regulations that are in the code, starting on the mid-page of page 9 to the top of page 10. We have not had any issues or complaints about any type of navigability in this particular marina. And the planning board may approve the conditions, or deny the request. If the planning board approves a request, the applicant will be required to obtain a building permit from the town. Commencement of construction shall be initiated within 2 years following the date of approval by the planning board. Staff did review the applicant's proposed request to include the plan set, which was date stamp received by the building department on December 16, 2025, and finds that it is consistent with the special exception provisions which are found in section 30-36 of the town code where applicable, and consistent with the town comprehensive plan and code of ordinances. I'll be glad to address any questions, and we do have the applicant's authorized agent here to address any questions as well.
Do any of the board members have any questions for staff? Especially those who know things about boats?
Sorry.
Roger.
So why is that pier longer than the other piers?
I don't know why that pier is longer than the other piers. I'm not sure how long any of those piers have been there. So I don't have the answer to that. Maybe the authorized agent does, but I don't know why it's longer. Yeah.
Well, according to, I guess, the guidelines that we just recently passed, you can go out 25 feet from the seawall. So if that pier is 25 feet and the other ones are not, are the other piers allowed to be elongated to 25 feet?
Right. The 25 feet or 25% or 25 feet does not apply to accessory marine facilities that are along the intercoastal.
It does not.
No.
And the perpendicular docking is allowed because nobody's complained.
Right. Unless the board feels that you want to bring a marine expert, if you feel there's some navigation issue. Again, we haven't had any complaints. It didn't really trigger bringing in the marine expert, but the code allows the board to bring in a marine expert if you feel it's warranted.
No, I'm actually a fan of perpendicular docking.
Okay.
How
But,
long has it been there?
But this pier, according to the drawing, says it's 43 feet.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I understand that, because this says 43 feet, so it must be grandfathered in.
Right. So we have a lot of legal nonconforming structures in this town, not only piers, but we have seawalls, we have docks. Again, this is for the lift. There's no changes to the pier. This is specifically for the lift. So the pier, as I said, I'm looking at the code right now. Again, that 25 feet or 25% excludes docking and mooring facilities located along the intercoastal. So any issues you may have with how far it's going out, it's, again, a legal nonconforming situation.
Anybody else? I was just curious how it's been there a long time, as long as I can remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the date. Again, maybe the authorized agent has more background. I mean, I typically don't check, when these things are built. When I'm doing the development review, it's sort of like, the pier's there.
Right.
This is about the boat lift. There's no changes to the pier
Are
itself.
these deeded slips?
I believe they are. I think there's some,
No, they're owned by
a sign. Okay.
so they're owned by Villa Magna, and then a homeowner. Okay, so not every homeowner has slips because it's not.
Eileen, you'll have to come up, please. Thank you.
We need that on the record.
My name is Eileen Gonzalez for the record. Not every homeowner has slips. It's a very big condominium unit. And to answer your previous question about why the that part of the finger pier is a little bit longer. They did get an authorized extension with the town of Highland Beach a couple years ago. It's a approved building permit with the town, but the whole entire marine structure has been there for at least 40 years plus.
So a few years ago, they extended
Mhm.
that.
And they got Army Corps' approval, DEP approval, and then they went in front of the board as well for it. I think maybe 2017. Yeah, it was a couple years ago, but the same engineer that made these plans, he actually made the plans for the extension. But it was a couple years ago. I'm not really sure when it was, but it
Okay.
was a couple years ago.
I'm just curious, do you sign up for that? Like you go to the condo and you say, I want one, and then you pay for it, or? Oh,
Maybe one of the homeowners in the
I'm
audience.
just curious.
Yeah,
I
We're
mean,
getting beyond the scope
You're
of
right.
the application.
That's a
No.
curiosity question, sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just want to, for the record, just want to make it clear that I'm a strong proponent of perpendicular docking.
Good. Okay,
Good.
Yeah, the only question I have, obviously there are setback requirements to the intercoastal,
Yeah,
the
and
actual channel.
Mhm.
Okay, but that's not depicted on this diagram. I assume it's in compliance by just with pictures I saw, but
if you look at the Army Corps' approval, the Army Corps, whenever we're dealing with them, specifically with the intercoastal waterway, they make us get an XY survey, which shows them the X and Y coordinates of the most waterward point of the structure. And it does get sent to navigation so that they can make sure it's not impeding on anything. So it was reviewed by navigation and it is in the packet, in the Army Corps packet.
okay.
Yes, sir.
any other questions for staff or the applicant? Okay, are there any members of the public that would like to talk about this? Okay, the hearing no other questions from anybody in the room, I'm going to close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve with conditions or a motion to deny the request?
Motion to approve?
Second. Could you please call the roll?
So we can.
Yeah, got it.
Member Bobby,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Rosen,
Yes.
Member Brown, Member Powell,
Yes.
Member Axelrod.
Yes.
Chairperson Mendelson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's move on to its cousin. Development order number P-25-36, David Dretman. Application by Eileen Gonzalez, Breezy Permits LLC, requesting a special exception to install a 30,000-pound capacity boat lift in slip number 9 for the property located at 2727 South Ocean Boulevard, apartment 503. Do any board members have any ex parte communications to disclose? No. Therefore, at this time, I now open the public hearing. Town Planner Allen, please present the application.
Okay, so as indicated, this is a request for a special exception to install a 6-post 30-pound capacity boat lift in slip number 9 of the Villa Magna Marina. This is on behalf of the property owner residing at 2727 South Ocean Boulevard, unit number 503. As with the previous requests, according to the applicant, they also had a previous 4-post 24-pound capacity lift. That was also located in slip number 9, which was removed. There was a town code violation for work without a permit on this particular slip. This was issued by our code compliance officer. The case number is provided on page 50 of your packets. This aerial is exactly the one that I showed you earlier. And then we have the rear view of the marina. And now you could see the slip number 9. So that one's a little bit different than the previous one. Here you have the survey, which you already saw, similar, mimicking the previous request. As with the previous requests, they did obtain Florida Department of Environmental Protection and Army Corps of Engineer authorizations. Same situation as with the previous. The agency plans show an 18-foot wide lift, whereby the plans submitted to the town show a 14-foot wide width, boat lift width. The applicant has provided email correspondence from both agencies. It's in your packet indicating that the change in the width of the lift will not impact the authorizations that they receive from those agencies. The top of the lift does measure 6 feet. Again, it's not dimension the superstructure of the boat, which is again not a code requirement. And there is a little note on the plan sheet which regards the boat lift definition and that the applicant will be compliant with the boat lift definition. As with the previous request, you have the perpendicular docking regulations, given they apply here as well. The board may approve the conditions, or deny the request. If it's approved by the planning board, they will be required to obtain a building permit, and commencement of construction shall be initiated within 2 years following the date of approval by the planning board. Staff to review the proposed request to include the plan set, date stamp received by the building department on December 16, 2025, and finds that it is consistent with the special exception provisions of section 30-36 of the town code, where applicable, and consistent with the comprehensive plan and town code of ordinances. Again, I'll be glad to address any questions, and we do have the authorized agent here as well.
Anybody have any questions for
Yes, I'm
staff?
sorry. Can you just tell me what an AMF? I don't know what AMF means. AMF lift.
Yeah, AMF is accessory marine facility. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for staff or for the applicant? Anybody in the public? Okay, hearing nobody wants to ask any questions or speak, the public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to approve with conditions, or a motion to deny the request?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Hart?
Member Axelrod,
Approve.
Vice Chairperson Rosen,
Yes.
Member Bobby,
Yes.
Member Brown, Member Powell,
Yes.
Chairperson Mendelson.
Approve.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, we are now going to move to the last agenda item, which is discussion on increasing the maximum square footage requirements for permanent signs. And Town Attorney Rubin is going to speak to this issue.
I'll go ahead and
Oh,
go.
Ingrid,
the-
you wrote
yeah,
it.
report, yeah.
You
No
Wrote that for me, so
worries.
So, Town Planner Allen will give a presentation that Mr. Rubin might discuss as well.
Okay, yes. Okay, so on page 84 of your packets, I provide you a summary as to how this discussion item came before the board today. So I'll go over that briefly. At the November 4th, 2025 commission meeting, there was a public comment that was made by the president of the Board of Trustees for the Villa Magna condominium. This was regarding proposed replacement of permanent signage along their 3 driveway entrances on A1A. These new signage exceeds the maximum square footage requirements for this signage found on chapter 23. On page 85 of your packets, I provide you a table number 1. And in that table, you'll see the last column shows what our permanent sign requirements are in terms of size of the sign. And the middle column shows what Villa Magna is proposing. And you can see that what they're proposing, the size of the sign exceeds what our code requires. Consensus from the commission at that November 4th meeting was to continue the discussion, or have a discussion on this at the December 2nd, 2025 meeting. Again, this was just a public comment that was made. At the December 2nd, 2025 commission meeting, consensus from the commission was to have the planning board review the town's permanent sign code regulations, keeping in mind Villa Magna's requests as a real-world example. The commission's direction to the planning board was to consider the following: appropriate standard for maximum size sign. How large is too large? Should larger condominiums have larger signs? Colors and illumination for signs. What is the right signage look and size for Highland Beach, and does it fit the town's aesthetic? Safety of pedestrians and roadway, including visibility and sight lines. Appeal or variance process for signage, and review of other municipal sign codes. Now, several of these items that the board is to consider today are already addressed in the town code, and I've provided these regulations starting at the bottom of page 84, and I'll go through those briefly as well. Section 23-5 of the town code provides size, color, illumination, aesthetic, and traffic safety regulations for permanent signage. So with regards to size, on the bottom of page 84, I referenced that the signs that are for ingress or egress, the code allows those, but they should not exceed 3 square feet. They may be illuminated or non-illuminated, and a permit is required. You can see, so some of this language I bolded just for emphasis, okay? In addition, there's one permanent sign that is permitted. That is permitted. It should not exceed 10 square feet. These type of signs must be illuminated, but not with intermittent or colored lights or animation. Of course, permanent signs.
Excuse me, Ingrid,
Yeah,
what page is this?
this is page 85.
85,
I'm on
okay.
85 right now.
Okay.
With regards to the intercoastal properties, one additional permanent sign identifying the development may be allowed. Again, this sign can't exceed 10 square feet. It may be illuminated, but not with intermittent or colored lights or animation. Section 23-5 also references garishness. Garishness means signs that are too bright or gaudy, showy, glaring, and/or cheaply brilliant or involving excessive ornaments. Okay. With regards to traffic safety, no sign shall be hazardous to automotive or pedestrian traffic, nor shall have any sign or lighting of a sign to obstruct the vision of the driver or any motor vehicle where vision is necessary for safety. With regards to visibility triangles, again, this is all already in our code. So I'm just letting you know what our code says about these various items that you'll be considering today. On the bottom of page 85, I provide you the regulations that we have about visibility triangles. In section 30-68O, it says here obstructions within visibility triangles are prohibited, and this does apply to signs. So on the bottom of 85 and the top of 86 are the regulations regarding visibility triangles. On the midsection of page 86, talk a little bit about appeals. So a variance, you can only get a variance for a reduction in dimensional requirement in the zoning code. The zoning code is chapter 30. The sign code is in chapter 23. So in this case, Villa Magna, they can't get a variance for their proposed request because it's not in chapter 30. Now, there is in the sign code, there is an appeal for a denied sign permit. And I provided you that regulation again on page 66 in the middle. It says if a sign permit application is denied by the building official, where there's an alleged error in any order, interpretation, requirement, decision, or determination, then again, an applicant can appeal. But this is not about reducing the size of the sign. It's just if there was some, again, error in some way. On page 105 and 106 of your packets, I did go ahead and provide you with a comparison table looking at multifamily residential uses, what the sign provisions are for Boca, Deerfield Beach, and Del Rey. So again, those are on page 105 and 106. And then lastly, in your packet, starting on page 107, there's a spreadsheet with the approximate height and width of all current condominium signs in the town. This is frontage sign, okay? And there's also photographs that were also provided showing you the signs that are currently in the town. Again, starting on page 107. I'll be glad to address any questions. We do have some of the residents here from Villa Magna. I'm sure maybe they want to address the board as well.
Okay. I understand this, and I read Mr. Rubin's memo about less restrictive and more restrictive. I have to tell you that being a regular driver on A1A, I think that our existing sign limitations are too low. It's very hard sometimes to see the signs, whether because of the sun or at night. So I'm inclined to favor some increase in the signage. I think looking at the comparatives of adjacent towns suggests what the appropriate limits should be, and would request that the town commission consider those, as well as the appropriate placement, which I think is correct in terms of the regulation or statute, and that maybe we should be a little bit more liberal in allowing slightly larger, more visible signs so that people can find us.
You had a comment? Then I'll.
Yeah, I do. First of all, I think that some of these signs are not attractive at all. and they probably need to be updated, and they need to be updated to a larger size. And it just so happens to be that the ones that are proposed for Villa Magna, I think are very nice signs. And I happen to agree with my compatriot here on everything except being liberal.
Okay, so I'm like, it's interesting to me that in your list of condos, you don't have Toscana since we're the biggest, and I was just curious, but it, I don't even know if our sign, what our signs are for. So we have it, yeah, we have it written on the wall coming in on both sides of the driveway. And then we have one like in the, and yeah. Anyway, I tend to agree that they should, like, they're very old fashioned, all of them, and small. And I think that they should be larger. And I think that if there's some kind of illumination at night, I think that's a good thing. So people aren't squinting to look at the signs that they can't find and then slam on their brakes so that you're behind them. And I always find people in Highland Beach like crawling along looking for where they're going and trying to turn in, and you can't, I mean, and then they stop short. So I think anything that makes it, not anything, but a change that makes it easier for people to find these condos along this one street would be good. I don't mind illumination at night. I think the garishness standard should stay. And I think then when it comes to the planning board or the commission, whoever it comes to, should be able to discuss garishness. What? Or the building department.
Right, so if somebody comes in for a sign, that's done by the building department
Building
staff.
department,
Right.
okay. So I think maybe you want to bring that, if we change all these sizes and regulations and have standards about them, maybe it should go to the planning board, but that's something that the commission could decide. I mean, is that something that our ordinance would allow that to come to the planning board or not?
I don't believe so. Again,
Okay.
this is a building permit. And, that would really tie up, it would extend the time for people to get a sign, just to,
But
Well-
I have a question then.
yeah.
If they want to have a sign larger than the proposed 20 square feet
Oh.
that was there,
So
then
like
they
a
would come to
variance
the
type
planning
of-
board for a variance, right?
And that's one of the things you're supposed to discuss. Like, do you want, and I know we discussed this with the town attorney, we can provide some regulations where there is a variance process. Now, the variance process goes to the Board of Adjustment and Appeals, not the planning board. So they would go to the Board of Adjustment and Appeals. If they get it approved, then they can be issued the permit.
I agree with Eileen that it's nice to have these signs, but I think that they should have a path to be able to have a nicer sign, because like the Toscana sign is very nice and it's freaking giant.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah.
But I'm just concerned about, so if you put in a standard of garishness, which you have now.
Yeah, there's in the
It's
code.
the
it defines-
building department people decide what's garish or not?
Yes, yes.
And then that determination could be appealed theoretically.
Right, it can be appealed, right?
Right.
That there is that provision. So if somebody had an issue, well, we don't think it's garish, they can
Okay.
take it.
Okay, because
With
I'm
appeal.
saying that if we agree that they can be illuminated at night, then illumination can lead to garishness,
Not only
sometimes,
that,
but-
with illumination, we do have to take in the turtle rules. Because you can't, from October to March, you're not supposed to have
Right,
lighting.
you can't see, you cannot be visible from the beach, right? So we have to
Right,
be
from the beach,
mindful
well-
of that.
Yeah, too bright.
Right.
Okay.
They're outstanding.
Otherwise, I think we should allow them to enlarge it.
Right.
And that's why, we don't have, to.
Wait.
Do we really need a vote, or we just make a
Wait, David,
recommendation?
let him finish. Let him finish. Okay, I'm sorry.
Let me make
Okay.
so do we have to vote on this, or can we
Well,
just make a recommendation? babe?
What I would suggest is you have the list of what the commission wanted you to consider
Okay,
on page 84. I would suggest that you take each one of those considerations and provide some sort of consensus, so that way you give the commission the information that they're requesting from you. So again, the first one is appropriate standard for maximum size. How large is too large? Should larger condos have larger signs? So maybe you want to address each one. You all can discuss each one, so then we can give them some, like a comprehensive perspective from the board.
Chair Mendelson, can we also maybe consider adding a few components to that, to the commission list? Because we have some other good ideas on here that we've got.
Okay, 1 second.
So,
Wait,
so you say-
wait a minute.
No, let him go.
The general-
Okay, I'm trying to keep this like in order.
So I do favor
know.
that, making the signs more visible, because I do also, witness many people, crawling up and down A1A trying to find their destination, right? But I think that we need to have some level of definition of what is garish and what is not, because as I look across the signs that are out there today, some are very attractive and some aren't very attractive. And so how do you do that? Because garishness becomes a very subjective, it's a subjective measure. And so do we look at materials that it's made from, or do we, can we define more of what is something that we view to be aesthetically pleasing for Highland Beach? That would be my concern.
Okay. Yes.
I was going to suggest that the word garishness probably should be eliminated. And in fact, to your point, there should be some factors that are considered with respect to sizing. So size, lighting, reflectiveness, perhaps other things that the building department or any other commission has had experience with, so that there are factors that when a permit is requested for this change, you can ask whether the proposed sign meets those factors. And then I would suggest that the standard for maximum sign be aligned with what Boca is doing, since many people go north and south on A1A, and it would be nice to have some consistency in terms of sizing. And I'll defer on the other questions in case anybody else has some input.
Well, so I understand, like, if you don't want to have subjective kinds of, someone comes to the building department and the person says it's garish. Okay, so if you take out garishness, but I'm just wondering if, and I know this is probably like not something we could do, but I know we don't have any aesthetics, for what you build in this town. I understand that, and I understand it would get too bogged down probably, but maybe if you're going to increase the sign sizes and, make all these new, allowances for signs, maybe you do want to have some kind of a body that looks at it and passes on it. Is that like totally out of something that we could do, or?
Well, again, we do have that appeal process.
Right, I know,
We
but-
have it in the code if somebody feels that the building official or whoever the designee is,
Right.
finds it as garish, then they can appeal it right now. They can do that now.
Right.
So.
But I mean, that takes as much time almost as just going to someone who has the right to say, this is what we think is attractive, or, works with the town or fits in with the town, the way the town looks.
But even if you assigned it to some board, there would still be an appeal process.
Right, okay.
So what I was going to suggest, just based on my review of other sign codes, something you might want to consider. A lot of sign codes say that these types of signs need to be compatible with the buildings. So essentially the same materials, the same look, the same feel as the building. So if the building is white and stucco, whatever, then you just, they should be compatible with the architecture of the building. The sign should be. It's just something to consider.
with the adjacent site, because not all these signs are immediately adjacent to buildings. Some of them are the ones that ours, for instance, are not, they're on the highway, they're not really near our buildings.
Well, right, but they're still part of your parcel. They're on the same parcel, but
So can I make an
Just a
additional
thought.
comment, please? I disagree with removing the words garishness. I think that we should leave that in there because somebody's always going to look to bend the rules and break the rules and to be able to create a garish type sign. And it's better to, and I don't think it's a good idea to overregulate the signs because right now you 20 square feet, most buildings are going to want things to be bigger than 20 square feet. So they're going to have to get approval anyway. But garishness is a relative subjective term. But if they have to go to a board, then you've got a Board of Adjustments and Appeals, which is what, 6, 7, 8 people. I mean, this can't be that 8 people are going to say that it's garish and or not. So I think that over-regulating this is going to be a real problem. Increasing the size, I think, is good. I think that there's nothing wrong with that, but it needs to be tasteful, and tasteful is a relative term.
Right, like garish.
Town planner, I have a question for you. You made a great table here with the square footage comparisons of other towns. Did you make a table of the aesthetics rules
No,
from surrounding towns?
no, I didn't look at the aesthetics per se. I don't know that there is an aesthetic component, but I mean, I could look further. They're pretty large sections of
And the
that.
other question I had for you is, why did you avoid Gulfstream? Because normally we would do all of the surrounding towns.
This was a direction that was given by the town manager to look at cities that were comparable in terms of the condos. Boca has a lot of condos, Deerfield has a lot of condos, Delray.
Understood.
So if the board wants staff to do some additional research, you could put that in your discussion.
Okay.
And
how you wish to proceed.
the last thing to be mindful of is we cannot do anything more burdensome or restrictive. So, the garishness, if you took it out, then you can't put it back.
Right.
So we have to be careful in what we amend. You can increase the size, that's fine because you're making it less burdensome or restrictive. But as far as other like corollary regulations, we have to be careful about that.
So so we're supposed to go back to the commission, right, with some recommendation?
Right.
Okay,
Again, those considerations
right,
that are.
consideration.
Yeah.
So let me take a shot at listing what I think they'll be based on what I heard, and then please, So we'd like to increase the size, and we'd like to use Boca as a comparison of the size. We would like to retain our existing language about garishness and safety, things like that. We might like to add that, as Len said, that it fits in with the building that it's being assigned for. We would like to retain the fact that the building department makes the decisions subject to the appeals to the Board of Adjustment. Did I miss any?
What about the variance? Did you want to go ahead and move forward with allowing for a variance? So
Yes,
if
I
there is
think-
a-
yeah.
a condo that wants to do something larger, then they have the ability to go through the variance.
Right,
process.
larger than what we're proposing now,
Is
yes.
that what you?
So further increases in size would go for a variance to the Board of Adjustment.
Something that I thought was a really good idea was to not allow plastic plexiglass type signs to be more classier, raised letters type
Well,
signs.
then are you already
And we-
putting in like a
Getting-
definition of what garish is? Because you're saying that it's not nice or it's not high end. I mean, I think if you're going to leave it up to the building department to say that it's not garish and fits in with the building, that then you should leave it to them to make that decision subject to the appeal. But I don't know.
And the definition of garish, I mean, I did does say that it's in harmony and compatible with the building. So that's sort of already built into that
Yeah.
garish definition.
I think what I was trying to get at is just to set some level of standard, since there's no building that I know of in town that has any plexiglass in its construction, yet they have plexiglass signs in the front. And so that's where I was trying to link those two. But if we actually enforce the compliance with structure and then that accomplishes that, but clearly in the past we haven't.
Okay, well, I
Eileen?
think that the commission should know that we're leaving in what we have and we expect it to be followed, that if it's compatible with the building, it uses similar materials. And if we need to enhance that in what we have already, we should.
And the only thing I was going to add, because I agree there should be a procedure for a variance, that I think that it needs to be restricted to consideration of modification of the existing guidelines that are in whatever is passed. So in other words, the variance can't all of a sudden say you can use plexiglass or that it can be garish. So we have to be careful in
Yeah.
terms of what the variant
Right. So-
process.
Right, so our
will be.
current language for a variance is a dimensional requirement.
Right,
So
and it
we
would-
Keep it at that. You
Yeah.
can't
You
get
would
a,
keep it at dimension.
If we
Yeah.
keep it at that.
You
but
can't get a
it
variance
just-
for-
It just
okay.
worries me that
Yeah.
you just put in variance without some control wording.
So,
But you said it's already there.
the underlying
Mr.
rationale
Marino.
for a variance is that
Okay.
properties, are unique. Some properties are unique. So I think we would just, if the board was inclined to recommend a variance procedure, as Ingrid said, it really should just be the dimensional requirements, and perhaps because of the topography, the size, whatever the case might be unique to that parcel would justify a larger sign.
So just clarify that in your
Yeah.
list. Yeah.
One question, we are going to say about, going to mention the size of the sign. Are we going to give a number at this point in time, a
We
recommendation?
said to use Boca.
What?
We
Ms.
said to
Boca?
use Boca.
Do we know what that is?
Yeah, it's in her chart.
It's in your chart.
Chair, I have three additional things that
Yeah, go ahead.
panel might want to consider. One of the things that was brought up in here, and we probably should give the commission some guidelines on, is universal rules. Do we want universal sign rules, no matter how large or small the condo is? Or do we want different signs for different size of condos? I would think we'd want universal rules across. So like
Yeah.
a 100-unit condo could have a bigger sign than a 5-unit condo. Some of these other towns have that and stuff.
I tend to disagree. I think that you have to look at what the lot looks like. I mean, there are some smaller buildings that have larger frontage. So I think if the issue is visibility and readability, then I wouldn't put that restriction in per se.
Okay.
I agree. It should be universal. Yeah. And then that could go to an appeal so let's say that somebody came in and said, well, it should be bigger because that fits in with the building because we've said it, then they can appeal that to the adjustment board. Okay.
So just to be clear,
Universal.
you want to give guidance to not have universal size then? Is that what you were saying?
No, we want it to be universal.
Universal
Yeah,
size,
right.
okay. So that's one thing. The second thing was, do we want separate rules for monument sign size versus wall unit sign size? Because some of these towns have different rules on that. Like if it's on a wall, it can be a
Right.
bigger sign. If it's a monument size, it's
Well,
small.
we have that already, right? But
Yeah.
we would increase all of them.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
with the wall signs, we are basically measuring this 10 square feet with the letters, right? Because it's on a wall. We're not measuring the whole wall. We're measuring where the sign is. And then if there's a true monument sign, then obviously we would look at the 10 square
Right.
feet of that sign. So that's how staff has been interpreting.
Right. So I guess
So-
if we're using Boca as a model to increase the size, we should increase the size how they do the other ones too, yes? Or so that they're all increased commensurately.
Now, keep in mind, when you look at the chart, starting on page 105 for Boca, they have a variable, which is number of units. So They have that one ground sign at each entrance. It's a maximum area of 72 square feet. That's specific for units where there's a minimum of,
50.
or I should say, where there's a minimum of 50 units. So, they break it down by number of units in a building.
Again,
Yeah.
I think it should be based on what the land looks like,
Right.
where the property is. I just think if somebody has a wide open front and only 20 units, it isn't necessarily appropriate to limit it to 5 square feet. It just doesn't work.
I mean, Deerfield Beach uses frontage
Yeah.
maximums. I don't know if that's something the board wants to consider. It's based on the frontage, but then there's still a maximum and a minimum that you're allowed.
So again, the number of units of the building is not something that the board is
Correct.
worried about or concerned about. Okay.
I think it's more how the property looks. We keep going back to this idea that the sign should fit in with what's there and
not be garish.
and not be garish. Yeah. Yes, what was your,
And then one last question, Chair, and this is also for the town planner. Do any municipalities have a minimum letter size? Because you could actually have a very large sign and tiny letters, and it still doesn't make it very easy to read. Or does no other town have that?
Well, I just looked at these three. I could do some additional research. In the three here, I didn't see anything with regards to letters. I could dig a little bit deeper. Again, these are very large code sections, so I was just trying to give you all just like a snapshot, of what these municipalities are providing, but I could take a little further deep into the
well,
letters.
you could say that, we're trying to increase the size of the signs so that they're more visible to drivers looking for something. So obviously, if you had tiny little letters, it's got to fit in with.
Right, I mean,
that.
if you have a 10-square-foot sign, you're not going to have super big letters,
Right,
right?
or
If you're going to
super
put it
small,
on the
right.
wall and you're limited to 10 square feet on the wall, it can be very big letters, but
Perhaps you should, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, perhaps we can say that the letters should be proportional to the
Right.
signage.
I mean, nobody's,
Sorry.
they're not going to want to put tiny little.
Yeah,
letters.
they're, I mean, I think you
Because the
gotta
whole
leave.
purpose is
some
really
bit-
visibility identification. So that's.
All right.
I know, maybe that's garish.
I think we have
I
to
think
leave
if they
some
have
of it
little
to the
letters.
building department when they see something.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, this is ridiculous. And they go, no, this is not visible or it's garish or whatever. And they go, go back and that's what Boca does. Go back and redesign it. And so I've done that firsthand with Boca. We don't like it. And then you appeal it or you go fix it, one of the two.
I do think that part of the discussion in comparison to other municipalities that we haven't really discussed is, for instance, in Boca, they have larger areas, but they also have a 10-foot from right-of-way restriction, which makes a huge difference. If I look at the neighborhood I live in, which is Ocean Cove, we're pretty far from the right-of-way and our sign is pretty big. But there are some others that exist today that I think are actually in the right-of-way. And so that makes a pretty big difference. So as we talk about size, do we have to also address, right of way?
Isn't that something the building department would also deal with if it's in the right of way? And
Yeah, we have, in our sign code, we don't really specifically call out a setback, but, you have the FDOT right of way.
Right. It can't be in the right.
Can't be in the right of way.
Right.
You can't construct it in the right of way, but I guess it could be right up against the right of way. We don't have anything that restricts that.
Right, and I think we do have a regulation somewhere in the code. It may not be in the sign code where you can't have a sign in the right of way. I thought I saw that.
You cannot have signs in the,
Right,
yes,
can't have-
it is in the sign code that you can't have signs in the
Yeah.
rights of way.
So I don't know if FDOT.
They would
Yeah, they
never
wouldn't.
allow a sign in the right of way.
Yeah.
But you can do, as Member Powell was saying, about a setback from the right of way, the right of way line.
So just for clarity, I mean, there are the exit and entrance signs, not the main signs, on many developments are clearly in the right of way.
I
They
would,
are?
I,
I mean, the setback from, it's 100 foot wide from the center of the road is what but if I'm not mistaken.
mhm.
It is 100 foot right away, so
So they're definitely in the right of way.
Right. And there are other properties that I mean, again, I could survey where the actual center of the road, because the road isn't necessarily the center of the right of way, that appear to be close. And again, so I think to an earlier comment, part of it, our issue is we may have the right regulations in place. We just haven't applied them over the years correctly.
Well, I think it's also, again, that issue of the legal nonconforming. You know, again, if you're going to put in a new sign, then you have to comply with current code. So
Understood,
yeah,
understood.
yeah. I don't think that the town has assessed the signs and whether they're in the right of way or not. And again, FDOT hasn't necessarily gone knocking on the doors to say,
Okay.
hey, your sign's in our right of way. I haven't heard of that, but again, as we see with, you know, lifts and seawalls, we have a lot of nonconformities, but the minute you want to put something in new, you have to comply with the code. So if
Understood.
a condo came in and they were in the right of way, well, they would have to then move it for a new sign. Yeah.
Okay, so do we think we have a list to give to them to consider? And they can always come back to us and say, we saw all these and we want you to consider more, right?
I did get all of yours, but I just wanted to just to clarify. So you also wanted to add the universal rules across all the condos, right?
Right. Subject to that, the overall criteria that the sign should fit in with the property and the building.
Right. So it's
Yeah,
more
so-
about the property.
Right, and the building, right.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
I think we.
So do I have a motion that Ingrid can send that on back to the commission? Her list that we just made, and you could hear it on the.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Hart, can you call the roll on this so that? Yeah.
Vice Chairperson Rosen,
Yes.
Member Bobby,
Yes.
Member Axelrod,
Yes.
Member Powell,
Yes.
Member Brown,
Yes.
Chairperson Mendelson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it. So, anybody else have anything else? You're happy? Okay, good. Okay, the meeting is adjourned at 10:22.